Hello and welcome to the Nightmare Cabin. We've got a very special guest. The notorious, the ferocious Mr. Frank Rini is back on the show for a second time. We had a great time last time you came on, so it was only a matter of time before we got you back. And this time you're going to be taking us through some tour stories.
Yes. Yep. I'll talk about that and some reissues and some other things.
And so before we
growl once or twice as well. So just for you.
Yeah. What have you been up to lately though? Have you need any more guest spots or anything in the pipeline coming up? And
recently I'd say the last two, there's a local band around where I live. They're called Snipers of Babel. And I'm friends with the guitarist who also owns the studio where he records at. His name's Mike. And he owns a studio in Maryland called Oblivion Studios. He's responsible. He's done a bunch of Deceased albums before, and he's just doing did the new Deceased covers, Thrash Times at Ridgemont High.
I just pre-ordered that today. Yeah.
Oh my God. The track listing looks awesome. So so he got in touch with me. It was last year, and he wanted to know if I wanted to do vocals on a song. So it's their style. They do longer types of intricate songs. There's female vocals. I guess their music is similar to, there's definitely some Fear Factory, some older Fear Factory influence. So there's a little bit of industrial type of stuff, and it's progressive as well. So I did a song called Your God's War. You can check the band out on Facebook, on YouTube. They have that song on there. They just finished mixing and mastering, so they're releasing stuff as singles now. And I just was in the studio a few weeks ago on a song called Gabriel, and that song, they're in the process of mixing it and getting some other vocals, but I just did vocals on that. And the collaboration between that band and myself is going to be ongoing. What that means, I'm not ready to share. I'm not really sure, but he and I have a really good friendship. We work well in the studio together, and the collaborating is going to continue as long as they want me. I think they do, but we'll see what else comes of it. It's great. They're great. He's a great guy. The band's great.
It sounds like a bit of a departure from what you're primarily known for with the brutal death metal. And
that is their music is definitely a departure. But since I'm already like a huge Fear Factory fan, I love progressive types of music. Even the female vocals, the lady Layla's got an incredible voice, and the different singers that they have in the band, and the music, it just combines. Everything works really, really well. So with my tones, especially on the first track I did, the Your God's War, I did more like power violence, like real shouting type of vocals. Some of the stuff I'm known for on Extinction, of Benevolence from IB, and my later years with other bands guesting. I did a bunch of low growls as well and some inhales, but that was more of an aggressive, did some of the hardcore type of vocals. And then with the new song, the new song was more kind of like voracious. I did a lot of kind of voracious tones, and mixed in with some of the power shouting vocals. And then I light up the end with like a nice inhale growl. But yeah, different type of music, but my vocals work with it. So
this sounds interesting. I'm gonna check this out. I'll send
it to you after the show. But the song that's on YouTube right now is called that's fully mixed. Again, the band Snipers of Babel. It's called Your God's War, and the song is like about 7+ minutes. I come in kind of in the middle, and you'll know when I come in. I come in with like an inhale growl, and then it's great. The song's excellent.
We won't get you confused with a female singer doing the opera.
No. The second track you may.
Yeah. So yeah, we the last time we spoke, you told us about the history, with how you got recording the first time, your singing lessons, and the first Internal Bleeding album, which led to one tour story, where you accidentally jumped in line in front of Chris Barnes for the buffet, which he was told Chris goes first, and which led to you wanting to come on and and just share a few more stories with us. So I suppose we'll start at the beginning, really, and
Okay.
that what I suppose that first tour you did. I mean, I guess it's a million miles different to what our band would tour today. Then I've heard also, I think it was Howard from Acid Rain was saying that one of the first tours he did with Acid Rain, he said the bus was like this old crappy thing, and they were like, oh, you know. He said, but that bottom of the line bus is like a top of the line bus today. So it's
Okay.
as much as it's changed, it's kind of stayed the same as well. But
well, he had a bus, so I'm not really crying about. He shouldn't be crying. Even if it was a crappy bus. I've never been in a tour bus before. I've been on a tour bus as a guest, hanging out and stuff. But in terms of touring, so where do you want to start, Joe?
I suppose what was the first tour you did with
Okay,
Internal Bleeding back in the day?
So we've been playing shows all the time. Pretty much like a weekend band. Doing a lot of East Coast, Midwest, little down south type of shows. So then when we signed to Pavement Records, there was promises of at least one tour. Ideally, at the time, what we wanted to do is we wanted to go to Europe as well, but they were promising us a full-fledged U.S. tour, which would span from east to west coast, down south, as well as up north, and then hitting Canada as well. So we're like, oh, that's incredible. So we were in the process of recording the album Voracious Contempt, and the tour came our way, where it was well, we finished recording the album. Let me back up. Yeah, we finished recording the album, and then the album had come out. We're playing shows. It's doing really, really well. Pavement Records, they wound up saying, well, we want you guys going on this tour. I'm forgetting like the timeline. I'm sorry, but they said 6 Feet Under. We're like, what?
So now, this would have been just for was Chris still in Cannibal Corpse at this point, or had he? Well, the first one he was still in the band, wasn't he?
Well, 6 Feet Under hadn't even. When 6 Feet Under started, it started with Chris Barnes, so he was already out of Cannibal Corpse. So 6 Feet Under's debut album had already come out, Haunted, and I liked it. It was good. I was like, well, this is like slower 6 Feet Under kind of mashed with like Obituary, and Chris's vocals, were stellar. The album was recorded in Morrisound, I believe, still, and so we're like, great, because that album was doing really, really well. The following was like nonstop for them, because everybody wanted to still see Chris Barnes, now with this new band. And then also direct support to 6 Feet Under was going to be Immolation. Now, we already knew Immolation. They're from Yonkers. We're from Long Island. Played shows with them. Immolation were one of my favorite bands to begin with. I'd seen them already on Dawn of Possession countless times, and their new album, Hereinafter, was in the process of coming out. And that album was great. So yeah, it was going to be 6 Feet Under and Immolation on the tour bus, where they had the nice beds and everything like that. And then we had to trail behind with a van, and we had Immolation's equipment in the back of a U-Haul trailer. So the tour was a month, maybe a little bit longer, and I think that I went into. When I was talking with the last interview last year, I was speaking specifically about like how I had been doing vocal lessons, from the Tony Bennett's vocal coach, and he was helping me with a variety of vocal issues that I was having, but it further helped me out with live, especially with some of the exercises that I was doing that I still do to this day, and so that really helped me out on the tour, and we'll get into like what it's like to tour now. Days, but back then, you talk. What was I? I was a young dude, like in my early 20s. So I was working out all the time, pretty much just weightlifting all the time, power building, powerlifting, and your health is just in a different like mindset.
Yeah, your metabolism's at its peak. Yeah.
Oh, I forget about it. I ate a whole pepperoni pie. It would not even put on 2 ounces with me. Forget about it. So, so there wasn't a whole lot of tour prepping other than, just figuring out from bands what it's like to tour, then actually getting contracts, because every venue at that time, which they don't really do much anymore, it's called a rider. So every band is entitled to a rider. Well, not entitled, but a lot of venues would give you a rider. Basically, what are the things that you guys want, and we're going to have it in your, the backstage where you got
your space, yeah.
Exactly. So mine, we usually had like a case of water. Individual guys wanted certain things. I wanted chocolate milk because at the time that's what I would do. I'd drain like a whole thing of chocolate milk before I went on to help with the phlegm and all the death metal-y, gurgly vocals, and as a throat coat as well. And then you'd get fed. And so that was, we kind of went in blindly. We didn't really know much. We knew that the band was getting promoted. We were getting promoted heavily. We were also considered the new kids on the block, so to speak, with our brand of death metal, which was the slam with some of the hardcore grooves. Yeah. And a lot of the fans, they were latching onto it. Some fans outside the genre of death metal were latching onto it because we were already playing with hardcore bands. But some of the critics and some of the other death metal bands would kind of slag us because being the new kids on the block and our different style, they would make certain comments. But by and large, we were the most underground of the bands going out on this tour. So we did have a really good following because of our constant connection with the fans, as well as, playing shows as much as we were doing. So I don't know, where do you want me to go from here? I can go right into stories. I can go into because I can keep on.
I'm guessing with you guys with Immolation as well, some crazy stuff must have gone on with the especially with the New York connection and.
Well, so when we got the tour, that summer. It would have been, I guess, the summer of 1995. I guess so, or maybe it was summer of because the tour was 95, 96, whatever. But we wound up 6 Feet Under. We're playing. We went upstairs and they were about to go on. Chris Barnes was like in the corner, so I was like, guys, we got to corner him. And we went up there, and I said, we introduced ourselves and he's like, yeah, you guys are going to be coming out with us. He's like, that's great. He's like, yeah. He's like, the record label sent me the album. And he's like, I really like it. He's like, it's the album with the really long, weird carnival music in the beginning before it gets into the heavy stuff. He's like, I dig it. Because Chris is like he's a real soft-spoken dude. And that was really nice. We were like, oh my God, Chris Barnes actually talked to us. And so then I'm trying to think of some of the stuff. We had to pick up our merchandise in Pennsylvania. When we went on the tour, we also brought this guy, Sean, we still keep in touch with to this day. He was our more like our merch manager. So he and I would always set up the merch every single night, and then he would be selling it. And then, then you'd get into the pit and, he and I would bash people. It was phenomenal. So it's the 6 of us in this van, got a U-Haul. Our first stop is we're going to have to go to Pennsylvania because that's where our tour shirts were getting printed. So we had to go pick them up. And again, this is the first tour story, and the tour hasn't even begun. And Pennsylvania is a large state. You could be driving in Pennsylvania and you're like, well, am I in Delaware? Am I in Maryland? Where the fuck am I? This is, I'm still in Pennsylvania. So we wound up hitting a snowstorm. All of a sudden, we wound up driving right into this snowstorm, and it's hellacious. It's snow, ice. It's coming down like buckets. I mean, the hail and just everything. I mean, it was huge. And so we wound up losing control of the van, and we wound up, careening off the side of the road into a ditch, which completely messed up the axles.
Yeah, fuck.
Oh my God, yeah. Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on? And the U-Haul was just all over the place with, you know, we didn't even want to open it up. Because we knew some of our equipment in there, but mainly Immolation's equipment is in there. We're like, oh my God, hopefully everything's fine. So we couldn't move. Our car couldn't move. We waited on the side of the road for a tow. Tow took us to just an auto mechanic place that they open up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So they fixed it. We were putting, I mean, it's kind of messed up now, but like, you know, the hatch to the U-Haul had opened up and Immolation shit is all over the snow. So we had to pick it up. We had to dry it gingerly. When we got back to the auto mechanic place, you know,
but that's a massive financial setback before you've even started as well, isn't it? You've got that mechanic's bill.
Yeah, Pavement wound up paying for it. But yeah, that was we were stressed out. We're like, Jesus Christ, if the rest of the tour is like this, what, you know, we're not going to even play a show. So we got fixed. We went on our merry way. We went on picking up the shirts. Like I said, I showed it last time. You know, I'm sure Joe's going to show that video again at some point. But one of the shirts, which was a hot seller, which I still own the original one. It's the Total Fucking Contempt purple long sleeve, where it says Voracious Contempt on the bottom. I mean, on the sleeve, it's got the internal bleeding logos going down the other sleeve. It's the insert of Voracious Contempt with the demon head, with the horns and another demon on the inside. That's purple with the internal bleeding logo on the bottom, which is purple. On the bottom of the back, it says Total Fucking Contempt Tour 96, and it's got a drawings of us that we had been promoting, just, you know, brutalizing people in the pit, and it's great. The purple really was like, oh my God, that's purple. That's like really dark. It turns out it was like our biggest hit selling on the tour. And so that was the first tour story, where we didn't even begin a show. And that was really stressful because, you know, there may be people out there that's never been in a car accident before. And, you know, I've been in them before, but when you're in a car, you know, especially living up in New York at the time, hitting snowdrifts, hitting massive, you know, it can be really scary.
Yeah, especially when you get out and you don't know where you are.
It was pitch black outside.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been a mobile phone. There wouldn't have been, you know.
No. Nope. And you could have, and it happens on tour sometimes where you get the person who's driving is like nodding because you're driving from show to show. You got the rest of the band is in the back. They're like just sleeping, and then you get woken up like, oh my God, what happened? So that's kind of what happened with this. But you know, your life kind of flashes in front of you really quickly. And but yeah, so that was the start of the tour. We were scared. But then once we got on the road again, everything was fine. Trying to think of some other highlights.
What's the average length of is it 30, 40 shows at this point?
So back then, the average amount for a tour is you're talking about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, 3.5 to 4.5 weeks. European tours sometimes could be a little bit shorter. Over the years, you started seeing now tours are longer, some of them. Now, obviously, I know that there was a tour right before COVID. I'm trying to think if it was in the US or Europe. It was Immolation and Blood Incantation. I hadn't seen a tour like that was so long. That was like a 5-week tour. And I was like, wow, that's really long. Now, getting out of COVID, you know, you're seeing some of these other tours that are going to be going out. I think it's a case in point. I think it's a European tour. It's like, oh God, I wish that was over here. America's Warbringer and Brazil's Nervosa.
Yeah.
And that tour is literally 2 months. So you're starting to see some bands who we're looking at, you know, that where, you know, some of their income is generated from being in a band, that to try and recoup some of the losses. I'm seeing some of these tours now 6 to 8 weeks. That I was like, holy crap, crap, that's long to be. That's crazy. But
yeah,
you know,
I saw. The tour got cancelled, but I did have tickets to see Christian with Vitriol. I think Gruesome as well.
Oh yeah.
Don't quote me on that. Christian were definitely the headliners.
Sure.
And I know, and that was 40, 50 shows when I looked at the fit. And the funny thing was there wasn't a day off either. That was 40 straight through.
That's ludicrous.
Especially a band like Christian as well.
I mean, I am sure if you looked at that schedule again, there was probably 1 or 2 days off. You get, because you wind up getting some of these shows that are so spread out, so you wind up traveling a lot. But the whole thing is, when you're also touring, it's nice to have a day off. Because when you have a day off, sometimes it gives you a chance to recuperate, just to relax a little bit. But then on the other mind, you're also thinking, oh, crap, we could try and fit another show in, sell more merch, because that's all we want to do is play shows. So that's what sometimes you try and do, wheeling and dealing with local clubs, local bands. Hey, we're off on such and such day. Can you book us a show? You guys can be opening act. And so you'll see that happening as well. So with the vocal thing, going back, when I was trying to do those, when I was learning, more techniques and was helping me out, it was especially paramount back then, because Joe, back then, there was smoking allowed in venues. You could smoke cigarettes, you could smoke, that, I would come home stinking like, I don't like the smoke. I don't like the smell of cigarettes. I've always hated them, but always coming home stinking like cigarettes. But as a vocalist, any of the vocalists out there can attest to that used to sing back then. Now you're not having, these venues are smoke free. But back then, I'll tell you this for some of you young singers or people who've never sung back then, inhaling smoke is the worst thing for a singer's vocal cords. And if you're at the club when you're loading in and you're hanging out with the bands and the fans, it was better for us that we were the first band on. But still, night after night, you're still breathing in that stuff. It's the worst. So learning those vocal techniques really helped me out on the tour.
I remember Glenn Benton saying about how he basically just says on where you said your rider, one of the things he puts is no smoke machines. Tell the venue or any other bands, I do not want any smoke machines near me. And I think someone made a bit of a thing that he was being a prima donna. And he was like, no, those things fuck with my throat. He said, I think they should look into what they put in those things as well. But yeah, it's just funny you mentioned that.
Did he say that recently?
Yeah. It's a couple of years ago.
Okay, so yeah, definitely
2-3 years ago.
Okay, so he's, back then we always had our own smoke machine. We liked the smoke coming up, and it had like it was a cherry liquid that you would pour in, and that was what, and then you had the smoke machine generating, so it smelled nice coming out. But the smoke, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I didn't know that could affect. That's great to hear that now, especially Glenn is old now. You have to do whatever you can to kind of preserve those vocal cords, because day in and day and night, the inside are slaying it. And that's a very smart thing for him to do, and for people to say things about him. I mean, that's ridiculous to me. But yeah, so smoke, that will mess up your vocal cords. And I even tell singers nowadays, they'll say, hey, do you have any tips, Frank? What can I do? The first thing I ask them is, do you smoke? Yeah, man, I smoke. Yeah. And I was like, well, what do you smoke? A bunch of them, they smoke weed or whatever. That's fine. Whatever, do whatever the hell you want. But I said, you may want to consider not doing that anymore. That will, especially if you want to have longevity, that will eventually have a toll on you. It will. It will.
Yeah, especially in that month period where you're just at it every night. And so.
Well, let me get into some more stories.
Go.
I get some other tour stories that are interesting. Let's see. And when we went up to Canada, Immolation were not allowed in because one of their members at the time, I think had like maybe he'd had a DUI or something like that. It doesn't even matter. Immolation couldn't even get into Canada. So for the dates that we played up in Canada, we were the direct support for 6 Feet Under. So I still own a bunch of those posters that I would just rip down from like the venues that still, it had 6 Feet Under, Immolation, Internal Bleeding. I was like, oh, it's worth, probably like a few wooden nickels, but to me it means a lot because Immolation weren't even up there in Canada. But there was one show, I think it was in Quebec, and the opening band was a band, a local band up there called Ghoul Lunatics, and really nice guys. I think that they may still be around, but our pit was so incredibly out of control and violent. I mean, there were fucking fists flying. There were freaking people like swinging and picking up change. People were getting injured. I mean, my thing is like I like to go in the pit and I sing, and at certain points, and I'll start slamming around. There was a certain part that it was during Humanicide. I was like, you know what? Shit, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I went back on the stage. This one, so at the end of the show, the guy comes up to me and he's like, and he comes up to the whole band. He's like, guys, you guys were amazing. He's, look, my fucking nose is broken. He got blood coming down. His nose looks like a mashed potato, like all the way over to the left side of his face. But he couldn't have been happier. And I was like, and he's like, can you sign? We were signing. I was like, dude, whatever you want me to sign, well, within reason, I'm gonna sign it. That was pretty interesting. We played a show. This was out west. I think it was in Arizona. It was an amazing show. Arizona's always been great with Internal Bleeding. Now the thing is, let's get back to the rider. So when you get to some of these clubs back then, sometimes the rider wasn't there. That's okay. Or if we knew ahead of time it wasn't going to be there. But the whole thing was you're always guaranteed a meal. Because that's part of being a respectful club owner, because you should be able to want to feed the band so that the band is happy and the band can talk nice about it. So we got there and the club owner said, I don't have anything to give you guys. Now, if you didn't have time to go get it, that's fine. I understand that, but at least give us some money so that we can go out. We weren't a band that's saying, hey, I want a steak dinner over here. I want the green colored M&Ms over here.
Yeah.
Very low maintenance we were. So he comes up to us saying he's not going to feed us. We were starving. I think that was one of the shows we'd been traveling like 36 hours straight. We couldn't even see straight. And we knew Immolation and 6 Feet Under because we talked with them that they were fed. So
right, yeah. We
were kind of slighted. And we kept on talking to the guy. So Pravelis and I, we go outside and we start talking. And sometimes, Joe, it's the power of persuasion. You get into a little bit of verbal judo. It depends on how you come across. I may have put on a little bit of a thicker Robert De Niro accent, circa
make him an offer he can't refuse.
Godfather 2 mixed in with Goodfellas. Just saying. I didn't use the word cement shoes, but let's just say as I started talking with him, he's like, I'm going to feed you guys. So he gave us all $10 a piece, which was fine. We went out. I got a salad and something else and a bag of chips. So always looking out for one another. And I even said, because he's like, he's only going to give us $50. I said, you see that guy Sean over there? That's our merch guy. He is a band member as far as I'm concerned. He's going to got to get fed. I was like, this bastard's going to be hanging up shirts and stuff, and he's going to be selling stuff. He's going to be carrying around money and stuff. I need him fed. I need him taken care of. So he's like, okay, not a problem. So, that you know, there was another club that we had. It was a venue that, so there are, you know, back then you had to do it more. No, you didn't have to do it as much as you do nowadays. But back then, you could kind of like undercut the other bands with your selling of your merch. Just saying. Nowadays, pretty much every band almost has to sell their shirts primarily around the same price. So, but we would sell our stuff a little bit cheaper. And but there was this one club that we had to actually sell. We had to sell, and everything had to be around the same price. That was fine. When you're selling merch at a show, you're the band. My feeling is this. I respect the band. I respect the promoter. I mean, I respect the venue, the promoter, the bartenders, everybody, the bouncers, absolutely 110%. But I shouldn't have to give you a portion of what I am selling my merch for. This was in Ohio. Near and dear. Beautiful fans and friends and bands over there. I'm still close with to this day. And a lot of great clubs. But so there are certain venues that will say, you're going to give us a cut of that. So
to which you reply, okay, we'll have a cut of the bar.
Yeah,
Doesn't work that way, does it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, you can absolutely say something like that.
Yeah.
Our philosophy, it was, well, you know, this money is helping to pay for our food on certain days, our gas, putting it back into the band fund. We want to come back after the tour with a little bit of change in the pocket. And to, you know, for all other incidentals that could arise on the tour. So the guy was just very, they were adamant that we had to give. My whole thing is this: I'll give you a cut. I'll give you a cut. You know what you're gonna do though? You're gonna come behind this fucking table and you're gonna sell the merch. That's what you can do to help us out. If you want this cut so bad, you come back behind the merch table and you can sell our merch for us. And absolutely, I'll give you a cut. Now, if you're saying that you want 20%, I may not go that high, but I'll give you definitely a cut for helping us out. But they weren't going to do any of that. Yeah. So they were basically saying you need to give us a cut because they saw, you know, they keep in tally. Our stuff was just flying off this. We were selling stuff like hotcakes. So I made them an offer that they couldn't refuse. I basically said, because, you know, we're all looking out for each other. I'm looking out for the band. I said, if you want a cut of the money, then come over here and take it. I didn't say it as nice as that, Joe. But I said, this is ours, you know, come and take it. And we packed up our merchandise and left. We didn't have to pay him anything. So, yeah, help us out. We'll help you out. Because also by us being there, you made a rack of money at the bar because the shows every single night were sold out on the tour.
Yeah, that's it. You're not the first person I've heard say that. And, yeah, I think that's a more than reasonable comeback. Just, okay, well, people are here buying beers and drinks from the bar because of us. So if we're making money from your venue, well, your venue's making money from us with people being here. And you're going to have another band here tomorrow night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we're going to be going on the road now, driving God knows where for God knows how long, where anything can happen. You know, that 20%, that's the difference between a tire going or.
Absolutely. Completely. Yeah. Going into Canada was funny because back then you didn't need a passport to get into Canada. But one of the things in Canada was they taxed your merchandise if they knew that you were a band. So what we did was Brian Hobby, our bass player, who, you know, 20 pounds soaking wet, and I got pictures of this, we loaded him up on shirts. He literally looks like the Michelin Man. He can't even put his arms back, arms down. We all put all the merchandise on. But he specifically, we kept on saying, okay, Brian, here, take another one. Here's a long sleeve. Here's a short sleeve. Here's a long sleeve. Here's a short sleeve. Literally, he couldn't even move his arms. So he's in the back of the van. And I remember like the Border Patrol, they come right up to us and they're like looking, you know, they're checking us out and, you know, have a few questions.
And you're just
They're like, what's
Yes, officer. Yeah.
well, no,
Like the Marshmallow Man in Ghostbusters.
put his arms down. He was like this. They're like, what's with him? We're like, this guy, he bench presses like 700 pounds. He's, he's tired. He had a big workout today. And they just started laughing. They're like, okay, go on through. Other highlights. A highlight was meeting Gene Hoglan, the Atomic Clock. He wasn't known as Atomic Clock back then, I don't believe. But we played.
Back in the Dark Angel days, he was Too Fast, My Ass, Gene Hoglan, wasn't it?
He may have just started in Strapping Young Lad, maybe.
Oh, right. So this was after Death. Yeah.
You're talking, I don't know, 95, 96. Maybe he's still in Death. I can't remember. But yeah. So we played the Showcase Theater. It was funny. Something just came up on Facebook about that the other day. It was a great venue. That was when we got there. That was where I walked in front of Chris Barnes and ate the food. Oh my God, I was just thinking about that the other day. It's too funny. But anyway, we played the show 2 nights in a row at there, sold out both nights. The first show, we're outside, and or it was the second night, and me and Bill, rest in peace, we're loading up our van and we're just hanging out. And we're just like eating some snacks and just bullshitting. There comes Gene Hoglan out of the blue. He's got an entourage of people around him. It was funny because he's enormous. I don't know how tall the dude is, like 6'7", and he's walking around. He's got all these like these. I don't know. It was an entourage. It's and he said, "You guys are in that band, that opening band, that Internal Bleeding." They're like, "Yeah." And now I'm a huge Dark Angel fan. Darkness Descends is one of my favorite albums. I love all 4 of them, and Bill, obviously, Gene Hoglan, you had to like him if you're a drummer. And he just starts like mocking the way we were playing on stage, but it was a loving and respectful way.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Bill's drumming, he was talking about the guitars, and then he was singling me out. He's like, yeah. He's like, dude, I don't know where the fuck you're from, but I never seen anybody get up on the stage and go into the pit or get up and just been like, rawr, rawr, and he's like punching, and he's punching his like entourage and stuff. He's like that. He's like, that's what like real music is about. And I said, dude, I think I just shit my pants because I worship your music. And he's like, man, that's cool. That's cool. He couldn't have been any cooler. I mean, you got a guy who's walking around at night with sunglasses on. Forget about it.
And even back in the 80s, even on the Dark Angel albums, he's with those big Top Gun.
Yeah.
Anyone that can carry that off is the only thing I've got against sunglasses is I don't look as cool as that. So same with hats.
Yeah. So I don't know. Those are some of the highlights of the tour. We were selling out. Another crazy show was we were going from, I think, California to Colorado, and California, as anybody knows, is huge. You can be in the beach, and then a few hours later, you could be on the ski slopes. So that's kind of what happened, because we played a string of dates over in California. We drove from the nice weather. All of a sudden, we hit the snow. And it was crazy. We had to go up these hills. We got stopped by the police. The police said, these roads are not safe. You have to have certain types of tires, or you have to have chains on your tires. Hello? Who's going to put the chains on the tires there, brother? He's like, you guys are not allowed to go further. What you have to do is you have to detour around. Dude, that was like one of the worst travel experiences of my life. So we had to travel. We had to go back the way we came to get to this other area, to get into Colorado. And, back then there's no GPS systems. It's your almanacs and all your maps. And we got to the Colorado show right when we were supposed to go on. We thought we were gonna miss it. That was like a 35 to 36 hour drive. We got there right in time. The guy's like, dude, where the fuck you been? You got to go on. You guys are going on in 5 minutes. So all of the opening bands were helping us out. And that was phenomenal. A few other pointers, we met all these different people back in California. I'd been writing to this band called Sepsism. Fernando, the singer, he's a huge fan of ours. They actually opened up the tour on one of the shows with us. They were phenomenal. I met rest in peace, Eric Lindmark from Deeds of Flesh. Deeds of Flesh. Their first EP just came out, and he gave it to me. And he saw us there. The guys who would eventually go on to Decrepit Birth, they saw us on the tour. Out in California, Rob Flynn from Machine Head, he was at our show. Because I remember him coming, he was in the big baggy pants, and he had like the chain wallets, and that was cool to see him. Members of Slipknot, you know, who would go on to be Slipknot. You know, you had Mick, the guitarist. He was at one of the shows.
He's a big death metal fan, isn't he? Yeah.
He is.
I know he's friends with Malevolent Creation.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because all the Slipknot guys all do side projects, and I'm still waiting for him. He's to do this death metal album, because he's meant to be this, you know, this total death metal head, and
not like there's any money in death metal. Maybe that's why they're Joe. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure he'd make some.
Oh, he would. He would.
Yeah.
Like he could do a super group. He could be like, listen, I'm going to be the guitarist. I want, you know, I don't know, Chris Barnes to be the vocalist.
He could put his own super group together, wouldn't it? If you had like money's not an option, right? I'm going to get the drummer from them. I'm going to get the, you know, you put your favorite albums together. But yeah, I remember speaking to Phil from Malevolent, and he was saying that that Mick came down to one of their shows. He said, like, he had a bottle of beer in each hand. He was on the side of the stage, just fucking go. He went, and the best part was that no one knew who he was.
Right. Yeah. He mentioned that he saw us on the Voracious tour, and he was very complimentary of the band. You know, he really dug my vocals. He's mentioned stuff that some of my stuff was an influence on him early on, even though he's not a singer. In terms of like the stage presence, I guess, but you really like an Internal Bleeding's music, so that's really mad respect. I mean, I love Iowa. That's like one of my favorite albums. So
yeah, that was my gateway drug. That Slipknot were my gateway drug. As much as you know, they get a lot of stick nowadays for various reasons. Some of it warranted, but it was me. That was the first heavy album I got. That first Slipknot album. Okay. I was getting into, you know, Cold Chamber and Korn and stuff like that, and then, you know, have you seen that band where they all wear masks? And like, oh mate, you've got to get it, it's fucking awesome. And yeah, that was my first exposure to blast beats, and then it was reading magazines, like interviews with them, and the albums that they would, you know, your top 5 albums or whatever, and that's how I got into Deicide, Malevolent Creation, and that was my, you know, just my gateway into death metal, you know.
Right.
And that's what you do, isn't it? Everyone jumps on one bit, and then they just go heavier and heavier, you know. That's why I don't really take the piss out of certain bands, because I go, yeah, but that's just a gateway. You're laughing at some 14-year-old getting into them, but that 14-year-old, he'll make it here eventually. Don't worry, you know. No one's born with a, you know, with a Dark Throne t-shirt, and a lot of babies are now, because you can get Mayhem.
Oh yeah,
baby things, and yeah, you know,
makes money.
Yeah. So that was your first touring experience. I mean, I can only imagine as well. It's completely crazy at the time, and I guess that first night home, you must sleep. You must just sleep for a day. But I bet there's that next day you get that slightly depressed feeling, like I want to be back. I miss everyone, and that's the thing as well. You meet the guys from Immolation now, or the guys from 6 Feet Under. Straight away, you've got that bond still. You have that bond for life, don't you?
I was at the Decibel Festival last weekend in Philadelphia. Yeah. Now, I didn't get a chance to see Immolation. I was just there for the Saturday show, but I saw Ross and Bob, and they hooked me up. I hadn't seen them. Took a great picture with them, and, you know, we caught up. It was great. Chris Barnes has been in touch with me before. So, yeah, no, that camaraderie is there, especially that was like our first real tour. So it was very, very special. And but, yeah, you come back from tour, you're sore. With me getting in the pit all the time, at the end of every show, I was counting all the bruises and the marks on me. So I was really beat up at the end of that tour. And you're like, man, I can't wait to be back out there again. The tour, another tour never happened. There was rumors of us going out to Europe at the time. I can't remember the band. It just never went to fruition. Not another U.S. tour happened. And then we wound up getting into writing for the Extinction of Benevolence. So that's kind of like a little bit of insight into the tour. don't know if there's any other questions you want to ask related to that, or if you want to kind of get into like what it was like then for me to tour nowadays when I toured with IB 3 years ago.
I think one thing I want to ask is some of the craziest pit stories. You must have seen some madness in your time.
Well, I talked about the Quebec show back at that show. That was insane. Colorado, there was a riot at one of the Colorado shows. Police were called. It was absolutely insanity. The Texas shows were great, although El Paso, hey, I love you, El Paso, but on a good day, you're counting which tumbleweed is bigger than the other. So that show there wasn't as many people there, but it didn't mean that the fans there were not heavily into us. Obviously, New York was hardcore. I mean, from Long Island all the way up to up to Albany where we played. Trying to think of some other standout shows. The Midwest was always great. Definitely, Houston and Dallas were tremendous. Dallas was, because that was our first time in Texas, and certain parts of Texas does different pits. They still do, and Dallas still does circle pits. A lot of circle pits. So we weren't used to circle pits as often because we're used to people it's just a sea of people just bashing the shit out of each other. That was insane. That was really cool just because the circle pits were huge, and that was fun. And California had a bunch of great shows. I'm trying to think of any, types of stand.
At what point do you look at the crowd, and obviously the crazier the better, but at the same time, have you ever had to go, look, stop? Someone somewhere is going to get hurt at this point, and because it's funny because it does look like a riot is literally kicking off, and then the song stops and everyone's just waiting for the next song, and then it all just starts again, and there must be that sixth sense of when something nasty is about to happen now, and you got to tell that difference, haven't you?
Back then, no.
No.
No, Joe, you just let it happen. It's like survival of the fittest.
Yeah,
hey, Biohazard, a great song from Biohazard. But yeah, basically, if you're gonna get in the pit, well, you better be prepared to, deal with what's coming your way. So no, I didn't say anything. No, not then. But on the new tour, I did. That was a little bit different. So yeah, I can segue into what it was like touring, especially since I'm older now. Because actually, 3 years to this day is when I was out on the road with internal bleeding. Around that time.
Is that 3 years already?
Yeah, in October.
Who did you do any for Extinction of Benevolence? Who did you tour? Did you do the tour for that album? You just did the album.
Okay, so what wound up happening, what took the wind out of the band's sails is, number one, the false promises from Pavement to give us a tour, another tour in Europe or the US. That fell through. Then we got hit with a $10 million civil lawsuit.
10 million.
So you want to talk about a crazy pit?
Yeah, that was a crazy pit when you got that letter.
There was somebody at a Long Island show. Oh, this burns me up to talk about this, but they fell, I think, stage diving in an internal bleeding pit and severely injured themselves where they were paralyzed. Absolutely unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, you're not the first. You won't be the last. I mean,
but
so of Lamb of God, and yeah.
Right. So the lawsuit went against the club owner, and the band as an entity of being a participant. Here's the thing that really fucking sucked. For me, I wasn't even in the band when it happened. The incident happened in May of 1994. And what was I doing in May of 1994? I was finishing up my 4-year degree. I was getting ready to graduate. I wasn't even in internal bleeding. Being in internal bleeding happened only a few months later, but that wasn't on my radar at the time. So I was saying, why can't I get the hell out of this lawsuit? Why do I gotta pay this lawyer money? They're like, because you're in the band now. So that took the wind out of our sails. big time. So yeah, there was nothing. So with Extinction, by the time Extinction came out, I wasn't even in the band. I had left the band to go on to, I was already in a career at the time that I'm still in, and so I couldn't do the band anymore at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which stinks in terms of like when I did the tour a few years ago. Obviously, I mean, we had been playing Extinction songs live. I wanted to desperately play a few of those songs live, so I'd been practicing them, and then they were like, the band Internal Bleeding didn't have the time, or they had a set list that they knew that they wanted to keep.
And they had a new album to plug as well at the time.
Absolutely, yeah. But I had been practicing 3 songs off of that album that I thought that may have been on a set list. Ruthless Inhumanity, which was an older song that we recorded for that album, and Ocular Introspection, and the title track, The Extinction of Genetic Messiah. So I was practicing those. I got those all up to snuff, but then it was a thought that Ocular was going to be in there, but then it wasn't. But, when we would do sound checks each night, one of the songs, Plagued by Catharsis, a lot of people like those lyrics I wrote. And so they would, I know in Arizona, there was a fan who kept on screaming it. He'd been following me on Facebook, and he kept on screaming, "Played by Catharsis." I was like, dude, I already told you it's not in the fucking set list. He's like, but you know how much I love that song. So we're doing a sound check, and I sang Played by Catharsis for him, and he could have, he was crapping his pants off to the side. And then after we run, I was like, dude, you don't know what that meant to me. I was like, yes, I do.
You fucking told me enough, yeah.
It was so cool. It was very, very cool.
But so you did vocals on Imperium, or backing vocals, and you guessed on Corrupting Influence.
Yes.
When did you do the tour for the band? That was when
So in April of 2018, Pervelis, he called me up and he said, I got something to talk to you about. I already knew what it was about. Just I could kind of sense it. So at the time, their singer Joe he was only able to do part of the tour, and Chris said, "This is the itinerary, Frank. This is going to be like the 26. I don't know. I'm trying to think. He was like, this is like the anniversary of Voracious Contempt in terms of coming out. 105. I'm just trying to think. So this would be really important. This would be great. You can pick either the first 2 weeks or the second 2 weeks. Whatever you want, you got. I picked the first 2 weeks. Quite honestly, I thought that worked better for me. And I was very, it took me a little bit of time to come to the decision, because while practicing vocals for bands and things like that, to actually do a full tour, being older now, I was just like, dude, man, I don't know. Chris is like, Frank, your vocals are going to suck for the next few weeks while you're practicing at home, but your vocals are going to come back. He's like, I have all the confidence in you because you always take care of yourself. So yeah, I made the decision. I did the tour. I actually wanted to do, then it came out that, unfortunately, due to other circumstances, personal, Joe was not able to do the tour. I went to my work, asked to do the whole tour. It was a month tour. I have so much leave, it's ridiculous. They wouldn't give me the whole tour, the time off from work, but I kept on like needling. I was like, come on. I was like, this is a date. Let's get that over here. Let me do this too. I did like 3.5 weeks of the tour. So they wound up getting this other singer, a local singer called Tyler, and he was in the band Torturous Inception at the time. And so they had him do the last string of dates. So leading up to that, I was definitely, I was overweight at the time in many areas, wasn't working out like I should have been. And so what wound up happening was I started getting into better shape. I started working out. My vocals were, to try and do a whole set list at home was very difficult. But then my vocals just kicked in 3 weeks later. That was it. The vocals were 110% back. They were back so much. I don't have a microphone in the house. I had a microphone to pretend to sing, but I have neighbors over here. They said, "What the fuck is going on in your house?" I had it, but 2 neighbors said it, and I told them what I was doing, and they're like, "Yeah, it sounded like somebody was like getting beat up." And I said, "Yeah, that was me doing the vocals." I was like, "Huh." I was like, "So you mean to tell me last night from like 8 to 9, you heard those vocals?" He's like, yeah, I did. I was like, well, I felt good because that's without a microphone. That's me doing those vocals. They sounded great, and I have people in other parts of the area, neighborhood that was hearing those vocals. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. I can't wait to go up there and practice with the boys. So my vocals, I was still getting, I was still insecure with a lot of things. And then I had Brian, one of my dear friends, who's in the band Kill Everything from Texas, who also has used to be in Devourment. He and I used to be
not Devourment,
So Brian Wynn, he was like, he gave me some pointers, and he said, Frank, this is what you need to do. He's like, number one, he's like, you don't have to worry about smoke in the clubs anymore, so that's great. He's like, you want to do sweatbox singing. I was like, okay. So what sweatbox singing is, and this is another tip, a free tip for you vocalists out there. And this is in the summertime. In my office, the room that I'm in now, before I was going to sing, for a half hour, I put a space heater in here with the door closed.
Yeah.
When I got into this room, oh my God, toasty as a mofo. And I kept the heater on for the duration. So it simulates.
So when you're in the venues.
Especially with me being older, this conditioned me. It got my condition up. I would be singing, then finished, literally dripping from head to toe, looking like I just like got out of a swamp. And so that helped me out. That helped me out enormously. Another person was, and I give him mad props, Patrick from Pestilence.
Yeah.
So he and I had reviewed their reissues. He and I were in touch a lot. We're still in touch. I've reviewed a lot of their albums. Still one of my favorite bands. And he's a little older than me, but by and large, he does vocals. He's older, and he gave me a bunch of tips. He's like, Frank, this is what you're going to want to do. This is what's going to help you out. So this has helped me out. Some of his techniques that help me out, while I do vocals now. And it was, I cannot thank that man enough because he looked out for me. And
that's nice to hear as well, because he gets some bad press at times, Patrick.
Joe, I'm not even going to get into any of that's, definitely everybody's got their own viewpoints about a variety of different things. I strictly don't even get involved in any of that type of stuff. I'm specifically there about the man, his musical creation, and his allegiance to death metal, and the type of musician that he is, and that he actually, he was in contact with me and he helped me out with that. I cannot thank him enough, and he knows that. He knows how appreciative I am, and so leading up to that, Chris was telling me, Provelis was saying, Frank, the crowds nowadays are a lot different than they were in the 90s. So they're a little bit more sensitive now. So he's like, back then when you would say, I want to see you motherfuckers killing each other in the fucking pit. I want to see body bags being carried out here, motherfuckers. He's like, all of that type of stuff. It's great. It was awesome. You may have to pull back on that. He was giving me some tips. So what I wound up doing at that time, especially during that summer, is any show that I went to, I looked at it from the point of view of the band. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna look at myself as a fan. Let me turn myself around and kind of see. And I said, God, it seems like it's a lot more difficult to get the crowd into the music nowadays. Because back then, man, I'd go out there and I'd be like, all right, motherfuckers. I just point and I'd do this and then get into the song, and then it was a wave of bodies flying everywhere after I, got them all pumped up.
Yeah, there's a lot of folded arms and
Yes. It's almost like, let me see what you're gonna bring tonight. Yeah. So I saw that. So I I was keeping in touch with a lot of different bands and friends at the time, and they were like, well, Frank, at the end of the day, you're Frank fucking Rini. You better go out there and still bring that. He's like, the fans have not had that in so long. I know. So I get that. I was trying to bring this other side of me in like the first one or two shows. I did a few different things to increase the crowd participation, but then it was back to like, come on, motherfuckers. They loved it. The fans loved it. They didn't even care at that point. They liked me. They weren't even used to a singer getting into the pit and throwing them around and bashing them and doing like all these different moves. And it was a lot of fun. But touring, I had to, prep a little bit differently because I was older. And then, there weren't really riders at some of these clubs. We would usually be given a cash payout. Some of the places fed us, and the tour, it was kind of more, it was a great tour. I mean, you had Decrepit Birth, you had Arsis, you had Us, you had Pyrexia, you had Angel Maker, you had Within Destruction. That was the huge bloodletting tour lineup. Unfortunately, after the second show, Decrepit Bill from Decrepit Birth up in California, when he dove off the stage, he broke his femur.
Oh fuck, yeah.
And that was horrible. That was horrible. We all, obviously everybody's like all frightened. What's going to happen with the tour? Because they are the headliners. Decrepit Birth are up on the stage. They're not really doing much. They're confused. These guys getting carted out in an ambulance. I said, "Fuck this, man." I went up to the stage and I went to Matt Sotelo, who I'm friends with, who, very complimentary of us. Really liked me coming back to the band. I said, "Matt, you know how much I love your music. It's that technical death metal stuff. Be honest with you, got all your rounds, but I don't know the lyrics. But you got me. Whatever you need me to do, I'm here to do." He's like, "You kidding me?" I was like, "No." So we ripped into a Decrepit Birth song. It's on YouTube. You can see me doing vocals. I got a white Pyrexia Sermon, Liturgy of Impurity shirt that Chris Basile was very generous, gave that to me. And I sing the song. I'm doing vocals and growls, made up words and grunts to the rhythm of the music, so it kind of actually sounds good. And then after that, he was like, "Do you know Cannibal Corpse's I Come Blood?" Because that's a song that we know. I said, "I know a bunch of the lyrics, but I know where Barnes sings all the parts. I'm not going to, I'll be able to fucking fake it to make it." He's like, "Dude, let's do it." I was like, "Okay." So I did I Come Blood. That's up there as well. But then after that, it was all in this, the standstill the next day. What's going to happen with them on the tour? So a bunch of us, it was me, it was Will, who was filling in for Pyrexia. I even got, I don't know if I got the guys from Angel Maker. I can't remember, but all of us pretty much said, "Listen, we'll pick like 3 or 4 songs a piece and we'll do the vocals every night for you guys." And they thought about it, but they decided to bail on the tour. So then it was us being direct support to Arsis for the rest of the tour, which was great. Yeah. Arsis.
Decrepit Bill did vocals for Suffocation in a UK tour a few years back as well.
Yes, he did. He did. So so the tour was definitely, different because now you got the social media aspect. Everybody's got a cell phone. It was a little bit weird being up on stage and singing, and then you got fans that are like right next to you and they want to take a selfie with you, and you're doing vocals as well. So it's so that was a little bit different. Cell phones.
And jumping like that when they're doing a jump, they're like that.
Yeah, I was a complete goofball. I even grabbed a few people's phones. I grabbed this one guy's GoPro, and I was just like singing in front of it and just like giving it to him. So that was cool. Yes, it was good to see a lot of the old school people come out to see me again with the band. Younger bands, my stamina was 100% every single night. People are saying, even some of the old school fans are like, "Frank, you're moving even better than you were back in the 90s. I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Well, that's cool." I was like, maybe, I really prepped for this tour, like pretty hardcore. And, there was definitely a lot of great shows. We played, across the US, we played up in Canada. One of the highlights obviously was Ohio. That was New York. I had a bunch of my high school friends that came out to the show. Friends and family were coming out to see us. I'm trying to think of some other special shows that there was,
You ever done any festivals in your time?
I mean, not overseas. I've never been overseas with the band. Just I've done local festivals.
Yeah,
like the Milwaukee Metal Fest back in the day, back in the 90s. Did a few of those. Played with all the greats. Fear Factory, Typo Negative, Slayer. Met all of them. Even met Dave Mustaine from Megadeth on one of the. He was nice. But back then the festivals were not very well organized. You'd have a show that would just, you went on late all the time. Nothing was ever, nowadays, over the years, festivals have gotten, they're so well organized.
Pretty regimented, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like
there's even so many of them as well.
You have to, and that's you're going to keep the attention span of the fans. There's something else I wanted to say about the tour. I mean, we sold that. We were selling a bunch of crazy stuff with the merchandise. We didn't have to give a cut of any of the. There was a, I'm always kind of behind the scenes looking out for the band. Ohio again was great. The last show for me was in Chicago. I was able to get that. That was a great show because the booker, I wasn't supposed to be on that show. I had to finagle to get on that show through my work. So the promoter, a wonderful guy, we were playing at this legendary club called Reggie's in Chicago, said, what do I need to do to have Frank Rini front Internal Bleeding one more night? We learned this early on in the tour. Came to an agreement, did it. It was phenomenal. It was the dude's birthday that night, so I saying like a happy birthday. But the special part of that tour was our tour was coming in the same time as Ingested tours were coming in. So he wanted to combine both tours as a festival. So that's what he did.
Yeah.
So that was a phenomenal show. The picture I think that you were using for like the promo for this show today.
Yeah.
I'm singing. It's like it looks like it's a scoped picture of me with the band in the back, which was a professional live shot. That's from the Reggie show over in Chicago, and Ossuary Annex. I did vocals for them in 2019. They actually put a full color picture of me in their CD booklet out of Stream Records. That was so wonderful and unexpected, and so that show was that was incredible. That show was out of control. I did pull a little bit of rank because you have the set lists, and you had Ingested were going to go on right before us, but Ingested were given the same amount of time as us. And I said I made sure I said to the owner, the promoter, I said, we're the direct support to the headliners, which is Arsis tonight. This is my last show. We get extra 5 minutes than Ingested does. And he's like, you got it, Frank, whatever you need. So he changed it on his computer, and it went to all the bands, and we wound up playing an extra 5 minutes so that we were on a little bit longer than Ingested. Nothing against Ingested. I just felt since we're direct support, main thing was our tour, then yes, there's this proper respect. And the guys from Ingested, the two guitarists, they actually came up to me when I was getting ready to leave, and they were very complimentary, said that they were huge fans. And that was a really cool moment for me because I love Ingested. They're phenomenal. So it was, that was killer. That was and we stayed at a bunch of friends' houses throughout the tour. Some of these individuals that Provelis knows, I don't know what they do for a living. If they work for like the Costa Nostra, if they run like offshore drilling plants, these were mansions, and the people took care of us unbelievably with food and places to sleep and shower, do our laundry. It was awesome. I didn't want that tour to end, but it did. And that's okay.
Yeah. So you want to show us off some items.
Yeah, that was a nice segue into okay, Frank, we're looking at the time over here. So anyway, I'm not going to get
No, I've not got time to anything like that, yeah.
I know. I'm not going to get into all the political stuff about the rights of these albums, but I will say this, that the rights to the first 3 Internal Bleeding albums were sold recently. And so I want to give a few special shout outs. One of them is a man by the name of Andrew Sutton from Dissonance Productions, who put out these cassettes recently. So this is, can you see a little bit?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's a Voracious Contempt album cover as the cassette box cover. On the back, the first 3 albums, Voracious, Extinction, Driven. Again, Voracious Contempt, which I still have the original, as I showed you before. I have the original Voracious Contempt cassette, still sealed, from 1995.
Yeah, there's people salivating right now over that. That'd be a pretty penny.
But the wall is out of business. If you can see the wall, it says the wall, lifetime guarantee. So if this cassette doesn't fucking play, I guess I can't call anybody. Obviously, I'm not going to open it up at this point. So These I still haven't even opened them up. This comes in a nice box set. It's beautiful. I've seen people open it up, and then so this is what Voracious looks like. Some really nice graphics in terms of what he did, and then Extinction, which is
you got the album prints on the actual cassette as well.
He did a phenomenal job, and it's got lyrics. You open up stuff. It's got pictures, and Extinction of Benevolence is known as that's more of like the obscure Internal Bleeding album. And then he also put out this super duper special edition cassette that came out. Again, I'm not going to be playing it. This is the insert, the front and back print.
That looks really cool. I do really like that. I want to see other people do releases like this as well, because it's kind of like a DVD box.
Yep.
Sort of, and then the cassette's right in the middle.
Yep, and then he's got the this part over here. The insert is going to have the back of the album. It's got the picture, the little famous picture of us, and then it's got all the lyrics. Mr. Sutton did a phenomenal job with the graphics, the presentation, the distribution of it. And the thing is, you're looking at somebody who's also a huge fan of the band, so he's going to show that love, the care. We didn't really get much of an input in doing it in terms of like providing liner notes because of how quickly it came out, but that's okay. Plastic Head Records, then out of your neck of the woods, sir. Me and Chris Pervelis, we provided. Actually, that was poor grammar. I apologize to all the grammar enthusiasts. Pervelis and I, we did the liner notes to the CD reissue. I still haven't even opened it up. I'm going to do it.
So is this Back in Black? Is this the new one?
Yes.
This has just come out in the last couple of days as well, hasn't it? This is brand new.
Yeah, I've had it. I've had it for a little bit. So it has Voracious Contempt, Extinction of Benevolence, Driven to Conquer. It has liner notes by me for Voracious and Extinction. I also submitted a lot of pictures, so I don't even know what's in there. Chris's liners are more of like going to be more on the technical side regarding like the musical and the vocal aspects, the influence on the scene, the recording process. Mine are going to be more story related in here, which talks touring, the crowd, what the lyrics. You're going to learn things about these lyrics that a lot of people did not know about. I'm also the guy who there was recent, Iron Maiden, my favorite heavy metal band of all time. I have the original reissues, remasters from the late 90s, but then they had the stuff reissued and remastered again. And I believe the individual who remastered these. So,
okay.
So I don't know what they sound like. Obviously, with Extinction, I would, one of the things is if we had the original stuff with Extinction, we wanted to remix that album because of the 808 bass bomb drops that are just too all over the place. We would have wanted to scale those back, but at the end of the day, that album is kind of a benchmark for slam death metal there, Joe, because really up until nobody was putting 808s. I mean, you'd have like a slow part and maybe let's say, no, you didn't. Extinction of Benevolence is really the one that put the map on like deathcore. With a lot of things, you had the 808 bass bomb drops. You had a lot of slower, sludgier slams. So I like deathcore quite a lot. So it's very cool to know that after that album, when deathcore started coming out, whether you had like the first Job for a Cowboy EP or the first Chelsea a Grin EP, now you got 808s on there like crazy.
I mean, it's just like any other scene. The first couple are good and doing something different, but then the labels jump on it, and then it just becomes so many bands are doing it. But like every scene as well, I mean, deathcore. If we say like Job for a Cowboy, Whitechapel, those first albums are over 10 years old now. It's gone by already, and all these sort of second tier and the sort of people that have jumped on the scene, the bandwagon jumpers, they've all died off, and the ones that are the cream of the crop have stayed around, And I think it got a little bit a lot of people are just sick of hearing it. When something just gets too much, people just
right. But
you
now
want to hear what you want to hear. I'm just hearing it.
Yeah,
but
now the deathcore scene is coming back, and now you're having this different type of a genre that's like it's like a micro genre or whatever. It's black and deathcore. So you with the new Angel Maker stuff, you're feeling some black metal influence. The new Carnifex album, you're seeing some black metal influence. But you already have like bands like Lorna Shore or Mental Cruelty from Germany. You know, some of these bands. Well, Mental Cruelty or I don't know if that's black and deathcore, but definitely Lorna Shore is going to have more of that. I actually like it. I think it's kind of I think it's kind of wild. You know, I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. And now they're doing some black metal-y types of riffing and melodies and with the vocals. It actually works.
Yeah, the gloves are off now. People.
Yeah, like, fuck it, let's try this.
Yeah, you've got a whole generation that don't care about being cool or keeping this true, and they're just like, I've got Cannibal Corpse, I've got Craigler Filth, I've got this. I'm just going to mix it all together, and if it works, it works. It's we kind of you kind of just have these cookie cut out bands that yeah, you might be sticking to the roles and that, but people, whether they admit it or not, they want something original.
You're right.
So, but this Eternal Bleeding box set, I've while you was just chatting, I just bought it up. I've just ordered it on Amazon. And,
wait, when did you do that?
Just now.
You just did it now. So I really appreciate you having like a lot of input in this interview while you've been like doing home shopping. So thanks a lot.
Well, it was worth the. It's going to be worth the admission alone for your liner notes because another segue is are you still writing now? You still
Yeah, I still write for Teeth of the Devine.
Yeah.
I still. Oh, by the way, from what I understand, with the liner notes, because back on Black they did the Holy Terror reissues years ago in a big box set. Awesome, comes with a DVD and everything. And there he goes. There goes Joe. He's gonna find it.
It's down there, but
trash can.
I thought it was down there. I think I might be in that back one though. But yeah,
sure. So it's gonna be a poster. I'm not big on that with the presentation. I'd rather have like a really like ultra thick booklet, but this is going to be a booklet. This is going to be a poster that opens all the way up, and then it's got your pictures, your liners, your lyrics, and all that other stuff. But yes, I still write. I write for Teeth of the Devine. The owner is Eric Thomas. We have a great bunch of writers on there. They're phenomenal, and there is I used to do interviews, and I used to write for All About the Rock UK. Craig Hogan, another brother, love him. Craig. Still in touch with him.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of separate, and I just write for Teeth of the Devine. I did that years ago, just because your time and energy, you just don't have the time to write for both sites. But Craig was phenomenal. I still love him. I still keep in touch with him heavily. Eric Thomas is just a wonderful individual. We keep in touch a lot, and I do, maybe one or two reviews a week. But it gets put in the queue because you have other writers that are, that are writing as well. And we do specials every so often. We just did a special called One Hit Wonders, where these were albums that from bands that only ever came out with one album. Instead of, I came up with like 7 of my favorite obscure bands that, came out with one album.
And done. Yeah.
One and done. And then, and in certain reviews, he'll make the high profile review of the week. And that'll be like, that'll stay up on the main page as a picture on the website. And then throughout the week, it's featured as the picture. And there's other reviews that are populating that they put up there. I'm going to be reviewing the new Ministry album. The new Ministry album just came out yesterday. I reached out to Eric and I said, I got to review this because this Ministry album is hitting me like their last, I think, I love all the Ministry. Well, I love the late 80s stuff into the early 90s. And then I thought they dropped off for a little bit until 2003. And from 2003 to like 2007, those 4 albums, which centers around the George W. President, U.S. President Bush, those years.
Yeah.
Those albums, especially Rio Grande Blood. I saw him on that tour with Joey Jordison playing the drums live. Rest in peace. This album really could have been the album that came out after, if he didn't take the band. I put this in a review, so you're getting a little like if he didn't go on hiatus after The Last Sucker from 2007, which I saw him on that tour as well. Let's say if they came out with an album in 2008, it would be this new Ministry album. It's got that type of sound. It's hard-hitting metal, industrial, the samples. It's so catchy, just like that time period. And I think this is one of the best albums of the years. This new Ministry album is just, it's hit me right between the eyes. It's perfect. Al has shown no signs of slowing down, especially the last song, TV song number 6. With the blast beats and everything, this is the best song that Ministry has ever ended an album with. It's insane. It's insane. So yeah, no, there's a lot of good releases, but that's going to be like my next review to hand into Eric, because I was like, I got to get this one out. And I recently did the new Carcass review as well, and that got posted. That was a feature review of the week.
What did you think of the new Carcass album? This is what I wanted to speak to you about anyway. I wanted you to know some of your highlights of the year so far. So
so the new Carcass album, I really liked this. I liked Surgical Steel. It was phenomenal. Saw him twice on that tour. Excellent album. One of my favorite aspects of Carcass back in the day was when Bill Steer would sing as well. Bill's got the low guttural vocals. On Surgical Steel, since I knew that he was going to be singing a little bit, because he never did vocals on Heartwork, and he
after a while it was just Jeff, wasn't it? Yeah.
Right. So to hear Jeff sing those songs live is great. His vocals are great, but he doesn't go low, like the exhume to consume parts.
Yeah.
He's just, so Bill was relegated more to a backup player with Surgical Steel. He didn't do the vocals. You didn't really hear them as much. I thought that they were buried. And then but on the new album, he's all over the fucking album. And they his vocals are more up front. And you're hearing the gutturals, you're hearing the stuff. So I think that even brings back more of an older school vibe, because it really sounds, the album has it sounds like a cross between, I would say, Descanting, because of Bill's vocals.
Yeah.
Heartwork and Surgical. I would say it's a conglomeration of that. I think the album is excellent. I actually like it better than Surgical Steel. Even though on the new album they got like this 9-minute fucking song that keeps on going on and on. Overall, I think it's a good song. But I just think it's hitting all the right marks. It's the best production the band's ever had. I think that's one of the highlights. You were asking me in terms of like highlights for the year. I'm looking at my phone right now, not being rude. These are some things that are coming to mind. The new Nunslaughter album, finally those guys got a good production going on. The new Nunslaughter album destroys. There's this band Burial from Italy, that's good. Huranian, I can't even pronounce that. The new First Fragment album, that is bonkers. If you like technical death metal, I like their prior EP and album. This one is even more insane. It's a long album, it's like 72 minutes, but this may be the best technical death metal album I've heard in a long time. Chris, let me see who else. There's a bunch of reissues. Burning Dogma Records did A Wicked Innocence. They just reissued a bunch of their albums. I'm going to review their debut that they just released. So that's good. The new Ian, the new Ian album is great. Off of Metal Blade, God's End Here. It's great.
Yeah.
The Rivers of Nil's good. The new Seven Spires. I think Eric may have reviewed that on our site. That album is phenomenal. There's this other band. This is kind of weird. So there was a Long Island band back in the day that changed their name to Sorrow, and the guitarist is now in a band called Journey into Darkness. The new Journey into Darkness album is great, but Sorrow were a doom death metal band, one of the first back in the day. Came out with an album, an EP. I used to see them when they were a demo band. When they were a demo band, they were called Apparition. Well, there's a new band now called Apparition, and their new album, Feel, their debut album, is like an incantation-y type of doomy type of stuff. I love it. Fluids, organic. Those are some of the things. I mean, I could go through my the new Mental Cruelty, the new Corpse, the new Traumatomy. I'm naming a whole bunch of slam bands. The new Abominable Putridity. Ingested came out with. They came out with like their first demo. They remastered it. That came out on Unique Leader, and then I think their first proper album, maybe called The Surreption. Is that it? I may be wrong.
Unique Leader is still on point as well, haven't they? The guys that have taken over that have
unbelievable.
Well and truly stayed.
Ingested, like re-recorded their like first album, or it's like a reimagining, and it's it's great. It's great. And then there's some other non-death metal-y types of things that have come out. This band called Silver Talon. This band Fianner, I reviewed their album recently. They play a power metal-y type of music. They just came out with a brand new EP. A band from Pittsburgh called Lady Beast. Their new EP just came out. Yeah, and the year's not over. So yeah, those are some of the highlights that were just coming up on my phone that were pretty recent. Give it a shot. Check it out. I'm still waiting for these mofos. Danny, when are you going to be coming out with a new Biohazard album? Come on. Jesus.
Yeah.
Love them.
Biohazard, they always, just when you think that's it, it's done, they always figure out a way to come back with one lineup or another.
Right.
So,
right.
When Evan's Pong career or, yeah. He joined the Sons of Anarchy last time I saw him. So,
yeah.
He's a biker, and then he's
he's a biker. He's an actor. He's a porn star. And so he's got his hands in a lot of different things. He's a very talented dude.
He'll be doing the New Kids on the Block reunion tour, and then
I think you're going to be playing drums for them. I heard.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Only the English dates though. So. Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure, and maybe come on in the new year, and we'll go through some maybe do an end of year list, or you've got something coming up, or we'll talk about that. But this won't be the last time.
No, not at all. No, not at all. And I'm going to send you that Snipers of Babel, that song Gabriel that I did.
Yes, please do. Yeah,
I'll shoot that over. Actually, no, that's not even out yet. I'll shoot you. I'm going to send you the Your God's War. That's the one that's out. I'll send you that.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'd really like to hear that. So,
Nice. There you go.
On that note,
I had to do one.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. It's Frank Rini, and thanks for coming on, man. And take care, and we'll speak again soon.
You too, brother. Thanks a lot, Joe. Take it easy.